Hello everyone, my name is Steven Zapata. I'm a concept artist, illustrator, online art teacher, and former instructor at Art Center College of Design. I would like to introduce you to my new drawing course, Form from Imagination, a course designed to help you draw with confidence from your mind. Maybe you want to be a professional illustrator or designer, maybe you want to be a master with a pencil, or maybe you just want to be the best artist that you can be. Beautiful goals. But it's not always clear how to improve the work that you do from imagination. Over the past 6 months, I've taken all of the little eurekas, tips, and essential exercises that gave me confidence drawing from my mind and compiled them into a sequential course. We start with the absolute foundations, covering the scientific nature of light and shadow, how to hatch, how to create flat tones, how to render spheres and cubes, and step by step, we move through combined shapes, complex shapes, organic shapes. We cover how to simplify extremely complex subjects like the head into basic shapes so that you can handle them more easily from your head. We look at how to understand and treat details. And by the end of these 14 chapters with over 50 video lessons, you'll be ready to do complex designs from your mind with fidelity and energy. And all the demos are done in pencil on paper, so you can do all of the assignments even if you don't have a fancy digital art setup. But I also have demos, instructions, and modifications to the assignments for those who do want to do them digitally. Here's how it works. Go to formfromimagination.com and sign up for the course. Download the assignment book and start watching the lectures. Do the assignments at your own pace. Take your time with them and use this self-study to develop your patience. When you're done, post your assignments in the exclusive community hub, and I'll personally critique your work with drawovers, diagrams, and advice. I want you to know, this course is no joke just because it's online. It is challenging content, and it is more complete than it would be if I was teaching this class at an art college as I have before. If I was teaching this class in person at Art Center today, I would just play these videos in class, knowing full well that they're the most concise, focused, edited, step-by-step way to convey the material. So I'm serious when I say, this course isn't just a substitute for a college level course, it's better than a college level course. And you don't have to pay thousands of dollars per credit and wind up hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. So thank you for checking out the course, thank you for watching this and for your support, and thank you for drawing and making your artwork. The world needs it. I'll see you soon.
Come in. Oh.
Hello, Joseph, is it?
Hi, Dr. Zapata. Yes, Joseph, Joe. How are you?
I'm well. What seems to be the problem, Joe?
Well, I'm having difficulty drawing from imagination.
Oh, Joseph, just so you know, that's totally normal. Why don't you tell me a little more about your problem? Is it that you can only draw from imagination if you're completely alone?
Doc, I can't ever draw from imagination.
What about if you're completely relaxed?
When I'm totally relaxed, I can't imagine a thing.
I see. Joseph, it's important to know that even with severe cases like this, there's always hope. I can prescribe an experimental therapy called Form from Imagination.
Form from imagination?
Mm-hmm. It's early days, but clinical trials are extremely promising. Why don't you try this for 6 months and then check back in with me?
Okay, I'll do whatever it takes. Did you just draw this?
Oh yeah.
Wow, it's amazing. Hey, Doc, do you ever have trouble drawing from imagination?
Oh no.
You wouldn't. I mean, you do this.
That's right.
Wow.
Form from Imagination is an experimental therapy and is not yet approved for use by the FDA. Do not use Form from Imagination if you are already taking any prescriptions for drawing from reference, working side size, or tracing photos you didn't even take. Stop taking Form from Imagination if you experience any of these side effects: loss of interest in your personal projects, megalomaniacal self-confidence, hallucinations, unless they're the kind you're hoping for, drawing better than Steven Zapata, or feelings that purchasing the course was enough and you don't really need to do the exercises. Call your doctor if you have stiff gestures, flat forms, or boring ideas to address a possible life-threatening condition. Full sketchbooks have been reported with form from imagination and medicines like it. Other risks include long-term art careers, too many clients, and being worth more than you're charging for. Call your doctor today and ask about form from imagination. Yo. Hello, Wes. Hello, Honoriographist. Hello, Aki. Mustafa Ahmed. Star Driver. Kyokusei. And Fictional Key Art. Star Driver says, God, I hope this one won't be about gnomes and aliens. Fat chance. I mean, there's going to be some aliens. That's unavoidable. Star Driver. Kyokusei says, dang it, Steven, I've been Pavlovian conditioned to check if you're streaming while at work. That's bad. You're in a problem. That ain't good. You're gonna have to work that out. What is that, mountain goats? I think these are longhorn rams. No, bighorn sheep is most of these. I pulled these kind of fast. Let me look at the stuff I pulled and see what I feel like drawing. Beaver. Look at that little guy. Okay, he's just a little beaver guy. Looks like he's using his tail as like a table, like he's doing work on it. What about a raccoon? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Raccoon kind of looks like my dog. My dog definitely has like a bit of a raccoon thing going on. All sheep are toasty and tasty. Hello, Barbie Burninator. Pedro CC, hello. Hey Spoon, hello. Just give me a second. I gotta dust off my table. I got all sorts of dust flying at me. Dog hangs out with me in here all day. It's amazing how fast the dust and the dog hair just build up. You know, when I do this, it's very useful. It just sends all the dust and the dog hair just back into the air, and then they resettle again. It's great. Great freaking duster that I have. Those are some high resolution photos, huh, Steven? Some of them are. But not most of them. you know, there was a time where you could tell Google Images only show me images that are over, you know, an arbitrary pixel dimension. Now you can just set it to large, but Google thinks anything over 1,000 pixels is large, and that ain't large. That ain't it. Settle in here. Do I want to do this page horizontal like this? I'm going to do this more vertical. Emperador Mendigo says, for how long have you been drawing, Stephen? My whole life. Since before I can remember. Has always been a part of my life. We're gonna take it nice and easy today, just studying a bit. I've seen your chicken Zapata stream. Will you be doing beaver Zapata today? We might get to the beaver. We might. I really just have a bunch of animals that I want to explore. I don't really draw animals that often. And I have an idea for a picture with a bunch of animals in it, so. I had started doing some thumbnails for the picture when it sort of occurred to me last night, but the hell? Oh, Photoshop's been doing this. It keeps resetting my shortcuts for no reason. I have my shortcuts saved in my downloads folder. I have to double click. Now they're fixed. Huge waste of time. I think Adobe is doing damage to my Photoshop remotely so that I have to update to the one with generative AI so that they can get more data on what people want to generate. So that they can continue to rob us of joy and usefulness and utility. You should move to Krita. I've tried Krita a couple times. I'm not all there with it yet. The big thing that I need from any digital drawing software is good selection tools. And that's one thing I'm very used to in Photoshop that it's very hard to find a good substitute for. Most programs, Clip, Procreate, their selection tools are god-awful. Drawing animals is very fun because all of my proportional instincts are off. So like resets you. back to like primary life drawing. It's like I'm forced to assess angles and proportions again. It's good training. That neckline tells me the horn is too big, but I'd rather it be too big than too small. What version of Photoshop are you using? I think this is 2023. I think they added the generative AI to it in the 2024 version. I hope the music doesn't sound too loud for you guys. I didn't want to have my headphones in today. How would you recommend building confidence when drawing? For the most part, it's just going to come with time. But if there is any part of drawing that, if there's any part of your lack of confidence that you can identify is coming from just you, from just typical artist self-loathing, you could definitely cut that out. It's just a drawing, you know? There is an art police. It's me. But it's unlikely that I'm coming for you. Right? I got bigger fish to fry. So for the most part, you're not going to be punished for your drawing sins. And don't forget, if you do a bad drawing, it was supposed to be bad. Like, you're not supposed to do a good drawing until you've put in the amount of practice and changed your habits and your temperament and done all the conditioning factors that will produce a good drawing, a great drawing. It's like, anytime you do a bad drawing, it's just, that's exactly what it was supposed to be, baby. It's like you'll do a good drawing when the time is right, and it's that simple. You never have to worry about it. It's never your fault. The real pill to swallow is accepting that it's not your fault when the drawing's good either. That's the tough one. Man, all my proportional instincts are off. Which I normally don't care about, but these are not things I know how to draw at all. Like, I have no idea what a sheep actually looks like, what a goat actually looks like. So at this stage of trying to get a little familiar with them, I will care a bit so that I have a baseline. But like, stuff that I do know what it looks like people, which I've practiced for a very long time, at this point, I never worry about the proportions. If I'm studying them from like a photo or something like that, it's like, I know what the basic proportions are, and when I work from imagination, I have no reference, so I never waste time trying to match a photo. Just like, that's rehearsing something that is not actually relevant to my art practice for the most part, right? But at the beginning, it's useful because there's anatomical and structural insights hidden in the proportions. So at this stage, I want to try to make assessments. They are very far away from the head. The horns actually, they're very far. And what is a bad drawing anyway, and not every drawing is a masterpiece? Indeed. The sheep's head anatomy is amazing. Yeah, animals are just incredible. Steve LeBlanc says, Steven, speaking of confidence, your streams and videos from the past 2 years are a big factor of me being able to shed the self-loathing you speak of and enjoying the pure process again. Just a big thank you. I'm very happy to hear that, Stevo. Keep it up. There's no reason to be down on yourself. Things get hard, right? We all find ourselves in situations where there's a lot of pressure or a lot of criteria. You know, we may have responsibilities in life that really make the work difficult, but all of that can just be what it is, and it need not produce self-loathing, you know? Miss Dude Man says, hey Steven, do you have any recommendations for website builders for portfolios? I started making one with Wix last night and can go 5 seconds without tripping over Gen AI features. I don't have a big recommendation. I mean, my website, I use Format, which I don't know if they're that popular anymore. I can't say I would super recommend them. Like, well, maybe I shouldn't say that because like my main gripe is that the templates that you pick, like within the template, they have a bunch of templates, but I find that the templates are not really that flexible. Like there's things I wish I could do with my website that I can't find a way to do them. Like I wish I could have some pages be horizontal scroll and then other pages be like thumbnail galleries. And at least last time I looked, I couldn't really do that. I would have had to pick a completely different template to do the thumbnail galleries. So I'm sure you could fix that if you have a little bit more programming savvy than I do. And by a little, I mean any at all. But I'm sure other websites do that better, make it more intuitive. But it works fine for what it is. But yeah, I haven't tried any other ones, so I can't really recommend them. I just went with Format many years ago and stuck with it. And by many years ago, I mean many years ago. I think I built my website on Format over, like I started with them over 10 years ago now. Drink Water says, Stephen, if the drawing looking bad isn't because of me, then whose fault is it? Can you elaborate? Like, remove the idea of fault. So most artists are operating with the gut intuition that a bad drawing has some degree of moral valence. They cannot simply abide with a bad drawing. And by bad here, there's a lot of definitions of bad that we could use when discussing art. But the one that I'm talking about right now is when a drawing fails to meet your current internal expectations, right? Your taste goes beyond what you produced. Artists, just due to conditioning, things mom and dad have said, yelling matches with their rivals, weird emotions that have emerged when seeing the art of other people that they don't even know, they basically just assume that it means something if that happens, that there is supposed to be a reaction, that an emotional sequence has to occur. And often they push it very far and they get fully self-reflective about it. And they think that it means that they're bad, that they're not doing things right, that they're not working hard enough, that they're behind in life, that they're too old, that they really shouldn't have done this, that they should have become an accountant, they should have gone into investment banking, whatever. You just go through the sequence of thoughts. But the truth is that a bad drawing is merely the necessary product of the cosmos at that time. You did exactly the kind of drawing you were supposed to do based on the amount of practice that you had, how consistent you are, what you had for breakfast, your argument with your girlfriend, last time your dog threw up on the rug, the weather that day, lack of vitamin D, like everything is just conditioning that that was the only drawing that was gonna come out in that moment. So that positions it neither as good or bad, it's just it is what it is. It is what it is. And even if it wasn't, the assumption that you must have some emotional reaction to a bad drawing is fallacious. You know, it's a leap in logic. It's an added thing. It's a narrative that we construct. All of which is not just unnecessary, but detrimental and shooting yourself in your own foot. That's a real bighorn, right? Sometimes I look around the eyes and I'm like, is that a taxidermy? It's like sometimes things look like a little not wet enough around the eyes, or like too clean, like there's no like gunks of eye juice or something like that that animals tend to have. And I'm like, is that a taxidermy actually? That's not a real one? I mean, if it is, it's an excellent taxidermy, but there's always all this extra meat, bone arches, and just flesh around the eyes that I'm not proportionally equipped for or compensating for. Kyo says, Stephen, do you like instant coffee? Only when camping. It's the only time I have it. I don't think it tastes good, but when you're out in the woods, that's the only coffee that's available, a godsend. Tet says, hey, Steven, my practice consists of doing only what I want to and dropping it when I get bored or I think I'm done. Sound good? Sounds good, baby. Sounds good, baby, baby. Hey, if anyone's on the Patreon, I'm doing a call on the Patreon Discord tonight for Q&A. That's at 5 p.m. ET in the open meeting room voice chat. So come, chat, ask questions. And that'll probably be for a couple hours, somewhere between 90 minutes and 2 hours, depending on how many questions people have. Kai, why go easy? Easy. The natural texture of those horns is just crazy. Yeah, that's why I wanted to look at this one. I really just do studies like this to look at the reference for a very long time. You know, if I was just staring, I'd get too bored. But if I do this, I'll just look at the photo for 20 minutes, an hour, something like that. And I think that does more of the work than actually drawing it. The drawing is a necessary adjunct to that process, but I think it's the looking, the careful looking, that gives you most of the benefit. MT Art says, I'm finally situated in my apartment, have all the time in the world to draw. Taking some time to get here, but damn, am I happy. That's awesome, man. That is awesome. Happy for you. Can't wait to see what you make. Any tips for texture in digital painting? I feel like when I do my painting digitally, they always turn out too smooth. Thanks in advance. People have different preferences for that kind of a thing. I kind of just always draw like I'm drawing on paper, at least if I'm being thoughtful. You know, if I'm not paying attention, that slips. But I find things go best for me when I always kind of pretend I'm on paper, because that's my comfort zone. And I just do that kind of drawing with a texture brush. And I sort of let the texture brush beat it up. But a lot of the time, I will just use the hard round because of how direct it is. And if there's a great foundation underneath it, it doesn't really matter too much that a painting be perfectly smooth. At a certain point, everybody wants a little bit of noise and texture in their work, but it's like noise and texture with a bad foundation. Just a non-appealing base underneath it. That's not going to save you. But a great base, even if it's very digital smooth, yeah, maybe it's not as good as it could be, but you'll still be able to tell it's good, and that it's a good foundation. The muzzle is probably better drawn just with value rather than trying to outline the features with lines. I find animals often have an upturn at the tips of their lips that I overreact to. It's like I want to see a smile there. And then when I put it in the drawing, it looks goofy. So I find I have to counter that and just have it end very flat and not turn up at all so that it looks more natural and not like it's creepily smiling. Steven, you watch Nosferatu? Not yet. Do you have any tips for creating metallic textures? Do you use the blending stick at all for this? You can use the blending stick for any soft edge. And metals are just reflective, right? So they'll reflect, if the thing they're reflecting has soft edges, or if like a specular reflection is getting stretched over a broad area, there'll be some amount of softness there. So use the blending stump for that. There's no reason not to. Any soft edge the blending stump can do. The main tip for metallic textures in general is just keep them, they tend to be high contrast. Keep a high contrast. You need very punchy darks against, at least to shorthand it, to make it feel quick and feel like metal very immediately. You need dark darks next to light lights. The nature of reflectance is like, it's going to show the value of the light source more directly than on a diffuse, non-reflective or metallic material. So the light source is going to be brighter on that metallic thing. And remember, it reflects everything around it, right? That includes the light effects that are in the room around it. So it's like if it's very dark in the room, that darkness is going to show up in the reflected surface as well. Obviously, that's not an actual reflection of light. It's like it's a void created in the reflection created by the light around it and things like that. But we're getting very technical there. Just dark darks against light lights, higher contrast will make things feel more metallic and more reflective. And if you're working in color, metals as a group, metals as a group of materials also tend to, the specular gets colored to the color of the metal, which is not a very common material quality. Like on subjects that are mostly diffuse reflection, the specular will maintain the color of the light source. So if the light source is white, the specular will be white. If the light source is yellow, the specular will be yellow. But gold is going to, even if it's a white light source, the specular will appear yellow. It will appear golden. And even if the light source is green, the gold will try to color it towards gold in the specular. So keep that in mind if you're in color as well for metals. Let me put on a different playlist. There's an artist on YouTube who paints entirely in MS Paint. Didn't even know that was possible. They have really upgraded MS Paint recently. I tried it once a few months ago, and it has a lot more functionality than it used to. You can totally do some work in there. It used to be much more limited. My first piece of digital art was in MS Paint. It's still somewhere in my mom's archives. You know, I printed it out. It was like, it was Mega Man with like a flame armor on him. I like did it in MS Paint, really crude. But it had like black lines and I filled them in and I was super excited about that you could like fill in with the paint bucket, you know, in the lines and all that. That printout is still somewhere. That was my first piece of digital art. My eye just can't accept how big those horns actually are, so I keep resisting making them wide enough. I also know that in terms of assessing proportions, I'm stronger at assessing vertical proportions than I am at horizontal proportions. You spend enough time at life drawing, you learn which way you bias. Like after many life drawing sessions, you start to see the pattern. You're like, right, every time I check them, I'm close enough. vertical, but horizontal, way off, horizontal, way off, horizontal, way off. Not wide enough, not wide enough, not wide enough. You also tend to skew one, or you either make it too wide or you make it too skinny. I always make it too skinny. Hello, Baden. What's the best way to learn how to rotate a cube? I mean, you can just do it intuitively by looking at real cubes, sort of assessing the way they converge and all that. But for most people, it is worth it to learn, not like do a bunch of perspective study, but literally just once set up a proper perspective grid, and that will change the way you see cubes forever. Just the number one mistake people do is that they know they need to do vanishing points, right? But they're trapped thinking on the paper, so they put their vanishing points at the edges of the paper, and that always gives you very skewed, very extreme looking cubes. You know, what you're doing there is you're creating too tight of a cone of vision, so your cubes always look unnatural. When you do a real perspective grid, you know, when you do it the traditional way, you're gonna put your vanishing points outside the piece of paper, which you can do by just like, you could literally use like string, or you could just do work. You could do what I'm doing, work on a piece of paper of a particular size, and then just put a bounding box within that bigger piece of paper, and you sort of do your points way outside of it, and then at the end you can crop down the whole drawing. You can cut off all that extra paper and things like that. But go way out, get a feeling for what kinds of natural convergences that actually produces, and then it'll make sense. When you freehand cubes, you'll understand how gentle things have to be for the perspective to actually look right. And if you know your art calls for it and you want to get pretty serious about it, you should learn how to do a station point. So you would learn how to project down here to the station point, establish this as, let's say, a 60-degree cone of vision, and then you'll know that the vanishing points that you're establishing are actually giving you 90-degree angles within your perspective system. And that's not all that hard to learn if perspective is going to be a big part of your art. But again, as I always say, if you're not interested in making art that involves a lot of perspective, don't learn it. Don't waste your time learning it. You don't need it. Now, a lot of art requires some amount of perspective, so it's usually a good idea, but if we're just being totally honest, not everybody's art needs it, you know? How's the comic project going? It's amazing. I mean, you'll never see it, but it is incredible. Trust me when I say it's incredible. It's never going to come out, and you're never going to get to read it or see it, but oh my God, is it good. Oh my God, is it good. Hey, Stephen, do you have any advice for a character artist who wants to learn environment concept art? There's an exercise that I demonstrate in a Gumroad video that I have. It's also on Proco. It's called Exercises for Beginners, or Essential Exercises for Beginners. The name varies a little bit from place to place, but it's basically called that. You'll know which one it is. There's an exercise in there that I call the room from memory exercise. I basically think if you're serious about doing environments, you need to do something like that at least once. When you draw characters, you have an inherent sense of relationship to them because you're a character, because you're someone with a body and you act and emote and express yourself. A lot of people have no direct connection. They have unconscious direct connection, of course, but they can't put into conceptual, concrete terms their relationship with an environment. And that is what an environment concept art shows and expresses. So the room from memory exercise is a way to force that connection or the experience of what that feels like, right? So that exercise is you pick a room in your house, so your bedroom, your living room, your bathroom, or whatever, and you draw it from memory. You don't draw it there. You don't draw it from life. You draw it from memory, and then if you hit roadblocks or if you get totally confused, you walk into the room and you look at it, and then you go back into the other room and you keep drawing it. What you will find, which drawing random stuff from your mind will not teach you until you're attuned to it, is that you actually have a lot of needs built into this space. So the clearances between objects, how high something is. Like if you draw your living room, you're going to find when you sketch the couch that you mess up the distance from the couch to the coffee table. And you know that distance very specifically. You'll be like, actually, I know that there's plenty of room for my legs when I sit on the couch between my legs and the coffee table. So that doesn't look right in this sketch. Or if you're like me, where I have a little bit limited room, I actually know that there's very little room between the couch and the coffee table in order for the coffee table to leave a comfortable passageway between the coffee table and the television. And then when you draw the television, you're going to feel in your sketch like I drew it way too high. Like in my home, the television is lower so that it's at eye level. The center of the TV is at eye level when you sit on the couch. Or you'll draw it too low and you'll be like, my TV is mounted quite high because we have like a high fireplace and the TV's over the fireplace. It's not reading that way in the sketch. Those evaluations are what a good environment artist understands. And then they know how to build those things into imagined, unreal places in sketches. So that is a very sophisticated skill. But you need to learn what that feels like by drawing a room from memory, by drawing your room from memory. And then once you know what that feels like, once you've had the flavor sort of forced in your mouth, then you try to recreate that in imagined sketches. I'll be right back. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I missed the chat from Ryan Gutierrez. Hey, glad I caught the stream. Thanks again for chatting yesterday. No problem, man. Thank you for having me on. If anybody missed it, if you go on Ryan's YouTube channel, I did a chat with him on there yesterday. We talked about a lot of cool stuff. Paradise Lost a lot, which is always a pleasure. A lot of philosophy and heroics. That was a good chat. Ryan's an awesome comics artist. Go check out his channel, subscribe, all the good stuff. Nice Ram. Thank you, Ryan. Steven, should I rather draw from Bridgeman or Hogarth? I already know most surface level muscles. My goal here is to completely render figures from observation. I don't know if you're saying from observation or completely render figures from observation and imagination. I think if rendering is a big thing for you, then if you had to pick one, I'd take Hogarth, just because his rendering is highly artificial, but he sort of simplifies all the muscle groups down to here's how to understand them just as like ellipsoid sphere things hitting other ellipsoid sphere things, and that's useful for rendering. Bridgeman doesn't really render anything as examples in his drawings, but he does reduce everything into like blocks and cubes, so that's certainly also getting at sort of the primary shape sort of principle. I mean, really, the best thing would be to just look at both, do both. I've looked at both. I'm a fan of both Hogarth and Bridgeman. What are y'all's opinions on not safe for work art, says Wes? Everybody in the chat does exclusively not safe for work art, which is weird because I don't do not safe for work art, but somehow the audience that I've attracted, I mean, every single person in the chat is a foot fetish artist, furry artist, vor artist. This channel's not for kids. I always say, don't watch this channel with your kids. I can't be trusted. Yeah. You're gonna have a bad time if you try to watch the streams with your kids. I gotta be able to let my hair down. I gotta be able to cut loose. I ain't Bob Ross, all right? I can't be, this straight on the narrow path kind of a guy the whole time, all right? That ain't my energy. That's not my temperament. Yeah, see, I'm blowing up everybody's cover. Your cover's blown. I know the kind of commissions you're all taking. I know the kind of commissions you're all taking on Artistry. I know what you're saying you'll draw. I know what kind of files your commissioners are sending you. Would this be okay? Oh yeah. That'll be just fine. Wes says, sometimes it seems a bit unfair how sometimes not safe for work art just completely overshadows some good artists. Get that sex sells, but seeing not safe for work art get crazy traction over them just drawing not safe for work kind of feels really discouraging. It's like the Puritanism switch activates. I mean, yeah, I mean, you said it. Sex sells, you know? You know, the current art climate does not reward just excellence. It rewards excellence and something else, but it does not reward just excellence. There's lots of artists with incredible skills who are toiling in obscurity and, yeah, just not being rewarded for their hard work or their abilities. That's just where we've gotten to with art. You always need to incorporate something else. That could change. It may not be forever, but that's certainly the current situation. So there's old time-tested ones that are always going to work, you know? If you're excellent and it's sexy, you will be rewarded for that. What majestic animal is that? This is a longhorn sheep. Is it longhorn or bighorn? I think it's longhorn. No, bighorn sheep. This is a bighorn sheep. Okay, see, that's the stuff I'm looking for. That's something I can use in a sketch in the future. I like that. Found a little moment there. There's sort of a checkerboarding thing going on with the horn where it's like there's a dark there and then it switches and there's a dark there. And the gradient ramps between them are interesting. And it's like that's light and that's light. I like that. I like that. That's one of those little form moments that's why I do studies like this. I find that, I'm like, that's good. Then I can often hinge a whole drawing off of that in the future, you know? And I don't need to do anything to do it. It's like my brain, I got the tickles, you know? My brain got it, locked it in, and now there's nothing I can do about it. It's like, if it is to be expressed, if it is to be the anchor for a whole drawing, the brain will regurgitate it when the time is right. It has done so many times. let me just block in this other horns shapes, and then we'll probably move on to another sketch. Another 1 hour sketch. This simple sketch has taken an hour, but ain't that how it is on stream? That's just the way it goes. Is Stephen practicing sheep for sheep-like drawings in the future? Yes. Not, at least the current idea I have in mind is not even sheep-like. They're just be sheep in the picture. That's why I'm practicing these animals. Mason says, question, Stephen, do you have any general wisdom for someone who knows what they want to make, but less so the style of their work? I get so inspired from completely different worlds of art, but I crave consistency in my own work, and I'm not quite sure how to incorporate the many different aspects of the art that I enjoy, specifically in the field of rendering and brush economy. If rendering and brush economy are the big hangups, put them out of your mind. Just make the stuff that you want to make. You can lose a lifetime worrying about the stylistic aspects. The miracle that you have in hand is that you know what you want to make. So just make it. Don't let yourself be in a period where you're not making the things you know you want to make. Just make them and never stop. And make them at whatever level of quality they come out at. And the best education you're going to get on rendering and brush economy is how rendering and brush economy work out on the actual thing that you want to make. It's not going to work well to try to figure out rendering and brush economy in abstract and then do the thing that you want to make. Just to actually make the thing that you want to make. No lyrics. No lyrics, please. Stephen, are there any things you still want to accomplish art-wise in life? I have a lot of things that I want to do for fun, but I don't really think in terms of like accomplishment or like I need to do this to feel good or to feel like I'm really doing art or like I'm an artist or like I have a a good career or something like that. I think a lot of people, their intuitions are operating from that place. You know, they're not gonna quite feel like they've arrived, like they're really an artist till they've done A, B, C, D. I don't really have that anymore. So there's plenty of things I want to do for the sheer joy of it, but I don't think of them in terms of accomplishment, you know? I just don't really feel that way about art anymore. You know, there's lots of things I want to do, like make projects with my friends and things like that. But that's definitely for the sheer joy of it, for the joy of collaboration. There's like a thrill in the idea of like helping make someone else's life different, like being tied up with that and things like that. That's like abjectly interesting to me, but I don't really feel like I need it as an accomplishment at all. It just sounds fun. I'd like to do all of Paradise Lost someday. Do you have nice dreams? I rarely have nightmares, but I don't really have like cool, like artist dreams or something like that. My dreams are pretty mundane. I think that's probably because I spend most of my waking hours in a realm of fantasy and imagination, so. It's like that subconscious need is pretty well fulfilled day to day. I have the usual like stress dreams and stuff like that, like oh no, I just realized that I've been skipping a class all semester. Like I haven't been in school in like 16 years. Librate says, hey Stephen, do you think one day our Lord and Savior Cthulhu will wake up from his sleep from the lost city of Relais? Yeah, I think so. I absolutely think so. I think great Lord Cthulhu will slide greasily into the sea. And when the stars in their sockets reach their destined homes, we too will be his vassals. Tikelili! Tikelili! I also get that missing class all semester panic dream. Yeah, that one's very common. Goes to show like how hardwired we are by school as children. A little lumbar support. Miak Art Project says, great work, thank you. Steven, you're nuts. You know, sanity was never really on the table. Never really on the table for me. No one's ever said I'm the most well-adjusted person they've ever met. Never heard anybody say, oh, Steven? Yeah, man, he's steady. Normal dude. Normal ass dude. Steven, you're the most well-adjusted person I've ever met. I think you might be spending too much time online. With fonts of parasocial ardor like me. I'm definitely not. I was at a party the other night where there was a moment where I was like, I wish we could find out how our lives would be different if we had different names. You know, hypothetically, that information is gatherable. You know, it's not possible in our universe, but you could imagine having that information. How fascinating that would be. And everyone at the party was like, okay. Anyway. The good thing about the party environment is that you can blame it on alcohol or something else if everyone gets a bit too weirded out. Now, this must have been 5 minutes within me walking through the door. Cool, glad you brought him. Peter says, Steven, I would love to see you draw a machine like the Bagger 293 on stream sometime, one of the largest machines on the planet. Is that like one of those mining vehicles? Remind me next time I do hardware on stream. I've been wanting to, I recently had the bug again to study a little hardware. Oh yeah, it's one of these guys. That's a big boy. Looks fake. It looks completely fake, that thing. Look at that boy. Looks like total concept art. Wild thing. Title Vetti says, question, do contour edge affect the illusion of form? Yes. For example, could an outside contour of a shape be softer edge to give more turning away feeling? Monsters, bird, nose, beak, for example. Yes, for sure. There was a question from E before that says, Steven, I want to draw comic books, but I also have the urge to explore some other fields first, like storyboards and concept art. Would that be unrealistic? It's not unrealistic. Not unrealistic at all. Just watch out for why. If you're doing it because you like storyboards and concept art, what's the problem, right? If you're doing it because you're afraid of making comic books and that's what you really want to do, you should probably just do the comic book. Slowly but surely, I feel like I'm understanding some things. The secrets of the longhorned sheep are not easily acquired. Did you think it would be so simple? The sheep is an enigma, a mystery. Great work is necessary to understand the sheep. If anyone is on the Patreon Discord, Q&A call tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I meant to check, is the texture of this sheep's horns relatively similar to the other ones, or is there a lot more variation? No, it looks about like that. The shapes are so very interesting. Do I have any other sheep on here? This sheep looks a little different. Why does this sheep look so different? It's got like a very different shaped face and body. I would like to figure out the groom on the sheep is so specific, you know? Just like very interesting tufts, very specific, interesting texture to their fur. I'd like to get in there and figure out some key principles about that. Hello, Gabuda Ichimuda. Steven, you should go to a petting zoo? Yes, I should. Last time I was at a petting zoo, there was a turkey walking around, and I couldn't take my eyes off the turkey. I just wound up following it around, petting its head. Its leathery head. If you've ever pet a turkey's head, it feels like a very specific thing that we can't say. And just like, they're so funny, you know, that this huge, fluffy turkeys. It looked like it had so many feathers you couldn't see its legs throughout its entire walk pattern, like its entire walk cycle. So it just looked like it was a hover ship. It was just like flying through the petting zoo. It looked like it was completely floating. I was following around. I was just like, damn, turkey! Where are you going with all those feathers? Come back here, come back here. Yo, 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 yo! Not so fast, turkey! And then one of the petting zoo employees was like, hey! Easy on the accent. You're getting real close. Problem territory there. And I was like, sorry. Like, hey, aren't you that art YouTuber? I was like, no, I gotta go. And I ran out of there. Samiku says, studying animals' form and anatomy allows you to see how beautiful other creatures are, just as beautiful as a human figure. Indeed. Indeed, my friend. Stephen, do you practice any form of meditation? Yep. I do meditate daily. I wouldn't say it's any particular form. I got into meditation through Zen when I was younger, so I think a lot of that has carried over, a lot of that influence, in spite of all of the other things I've played around with. So if anything, I guess I'd say it's a form of Zen, but I don't say that with great seriousness. Seva says, any tips for drawing anthropomorphic animals like, say, a minotaur? I really struggle figuring out how the neck connects. Yeah, if you're trying to make it even vaguely believable, just comparative anatomy will be necessary. You'll need to look at what, in the case of a minotaur, what's the arrangement of a bull's neck muscles. Look at a human's neck muscles, feel the distance between them, see what's enlarged, what's smaller. Because being mammals, we all basically share the same skeletal structure and the same muscles performing the same functions for the most part. But they're in different places and in vastly different proportions and things like that. So if you sort of wrap your head a little bit around the comparative anatomy there, that's usually what it's called. It's like, all right, well, the clavicle on a person is positioned like this and does this, but on a dog, the clavicle is positioned like this and does this. Or the lack of a clavicle in the case of a dog. But if you do a little investigation into that, it'll start, as your knowledge deepens there, it'll start suggesting semi-realistic, just believable, if not realistic, solutions very quickly. Isn't this an Elden Ring channel? It was supposed to be. It was. You guys weren't giving me enough what are they called? Well, I completely farted on what they're called, so there goes the bit. Super chats? That's it. You guys weren't giving me enough super chats for my epic Elden Ring plays. Have you played Returnal? I have not. I've thought about buying it before, though. It looks cool. I'm thinking of the right game, right? It's like the sci-fi sort of bullet hell 3D shooter. Am I thinking of the right one? You're on like an alien planet. You're on an alien planet. Hi, Sam. That's a strange looking cat you're drawing. You betcha. You betcha. Hey, Sam, I saw you're leaving Instagram, or thinking of leaving Instagram. Goodbye, sweet prince. Get out while the getting's good. And stay in touch. All right, cool. I'm going to pause on that one. I can always come back to it later. I feel like I got a bunch of things that I'm like, all right, I think I get what I would draw in pencil with these kind of forms, and that's all I'm looking for. I don't need some fully finished thing. It's fun taking it easy, man. I got no problems with spending 2 hours on a simple study. Time well spent as far as I'm concerned. It's fun keeping it laid back. Sam says, I'm indeed living Instagram. I will keep in touch through our other established means, primarily back alleys. I'll see you in the alleys, Sam. Let me look at these bodies a little bit. Overall proportions of these guys. This I won't poke at. Too long. I'm seeing now that the width is really like, I'm failing at the widths. There's like a very interesting like hourglass formation almost going on there. You see that? It gets very wide behind the orbits. And that's quite confusing, quite an unusual configuration, but I take it that's to support the massive volume of the horns. But that shape there is real specific. It's like an inverted bread loaf or something like that. It's bread, yeah, like it's not quite the traditional bread slice shape, but it's like, it's the beginnings of it. Sam says, Stephen, for studies like these, are you giving much thought to exploring shape design, structure, anatomy, all the above? And do you ever explicitly pick which of those you're focusing on for studies? I do often pick. Right now, I'm very free with it. I'm doing these because I really have no idea what a sheep looks like, this kind of sheep looks like. I'm basically just letting myself get lost, and I'm doing it like I'm at life drawing and just like in a very exploratory, assessing just base proportion kind of a thing. Shape design inevitably becomes a part of that, but I'm not really trying to design the shapes. I'm trying to gain insight into the shapes first. If I was doing a figure study, because I'm much more familiar with the figure, I don't need to do that initial lift of what the hell do people actually look like. I'm very familiar with that. There, I would know from the beginning with the sketch, am I focusing on design? Am I focusing on structure? Am I focusing on anatomy? Am I focusing on lighting? Am I focusing on color? I would be picking one thing, and that's really all I'm trying to get out of the study, right? Here, much more basic stuff, much more initial proportions. I'm I put it this way on the stream earlier, and I think this is really it. I'm really just using the drawing as a way to keep me entertained while I stare at the photo for a very long time. You know, I stared at this sheep for about 2 hours now. And that would be impossible to do if I wasn't drawing. But in the long run, I think it's the staring that matters the most. Looking at this now, I still don't think this is wide enough. I think to get the proportion right, I'd have to cut him down the middle, kind of pull his head a little more like that. Is that brutal? Does that hurt you guys? Does it feel like it really happened to the sheep a little bit? It's like I see there's like a big round volume to the nose that I didn't really capture. It got a little thin on me. That's what happens when you're new to a subject, you know, you haven't identified the structures, so you make things disappear. So inevitably things get too small, thin, things like that. Yeah, hanging out with sheep today, yeah. I'm gonna open my blinds. Stephen, what is a broad recommendation for dropping your ego in art? Trying to do art for enjoyment again. If your ego is tripping you up in art, for most artists, it's that you're trying to use art to prove yourself to someone. It doesn't need to be a particular someone. It can be sort of like a ghost audience that you've created in your mind, but that's usually what's driving people's ego. It's like dad didn't believe in you, mom doesn't believe in you. If you do a great drawing, you'll finally prove to them that you are a good son. Once they see this amazing drawing, they won't be able to deny that it's okay that I'm alive. You know, those are the intuitions that are operating underneath your emotions, things like that. If it's not a particular person, it could just sort of be like an audience of like perceived superiors. You know, maybe you've had bad experiences with like rivals and things like that, or you've had people like put you down for your creative pursuits, and you just have sort of a spiteful process running of like, I'll show them, I'll defeat them. Once they see this one, they won't be able to deny that I'm better than them and things like that. All of that stuff is, of course, not going to happen, right? Those people couldn't care less how cool your drawing is. But for the most part, that's what's driving the ego in most people's art. How do you defeat that? Well, like most things, just mindfulness of it, just staring at that fact directly does dissolve like 80% of it, right? Like the emotionality and the energetics of those kinds of things, they can only operate freely and sort of go full bore and like a stallion when they're unscrutinized, when they're sort of free to go on their own without being tripped up. If you stare at them, if you focus on them, if you accept them nakedly, those kinds of emotions, they wither, you know, they can't, it makes it difficult for them to construct the narrative, and then they just sort of start shrinking. And then what's left, you usually need to do some kind of personal resolution. You know, you need to either go through a ritual or go through therapy, or have a life change, like, you know, get married or have a kid or something like that. When I talk to people, that's usually like big things like that will sort of do a reset and sort of make you reframe a lot of, you know, childish things. It's like things from your youth, things from your past. There's sort of an opportunity, those ritual barriers, to reframe those as unnecessary or they're just not really that impactful in the narrative anymore, and move on from them. But yeah, it's almost always just, deep down, someone made you feel like you're not enough and you're trying to fix it with art. You're trying to absolve yourself of your existential guilt with art, and, it ain't gonna work. Hi, Julio. Hey, Manny. Goodbye, Peter. Definitely not enough aliens and AI in this one, says Peter. Well, that stream will always be up. Always be up for people to react to. Well, now TikTok's back. I was saying that forgetting that TikTok returned. We could go watch UFO videos on TikTok again and assess their level of reality, which in general is 100%. 100% authenticity. It looks like I'm drawing an alien right now. This doesn't look right at all. Wait, hold on. I got caught up drawing the face again. I said that this was going to be a body proportion sketch, but I got distracted. Yeah, I can barely make heads or tails of that face structure anyway. That's one where I think I would need to look at the skull on that one. I would like to get comfortable doing these very fuzzy animals though, it's just an opportunity for a lot of unusual textures that don't really come up otherwise. Elbows and knees are always deeper into the masses than you tend to think. There's an elbow there. Your tendency might be to want to put an elbow like down here outside of the body mass, but on animals like this, it's like elbow is there, tucked onto the mass, knees there. They're like up there in the body, vaulted in the body. That's how I used to think of it, the vaults. This is in the vault of this is in the vault of that. Back when I was studying l'anatomia many years ago. Even understanding anatomy and preparing construction properly, my subject doesn't necessarily make it look aesthetic. No, not at all. This is all like, what I'm doing here is just like chill, preparatory, familiarity building, stuff like that. Like when it comes time to actually draw, you can't draw like this. You gotta draw like Frazetta or Claire Wendling, You just put this stuff in the unconscious unconscious, and then when it's time to really draw, you just let it rip. You just go crazy. You try to draw the animal the way you would draw a person, with great freedom and familiarity. And you fake it till you make it on that. And yeah, you'll draw some animals that don't really look like the animal. There's a lot of Frank Frazetta cats that don't really look like cats, but they're still awesome drawings, They're full of energy and vigor and violence. Akab Botan says, "Hi, Stephen. My practice is copying a lot of drawings, draw with reference, and none. A lot of sketches, and I'm improving. Goal is to draw from imagination. Any pitfalls I should worry about? Thank you. Nope. As long as you're including in whatever else you do that you regularly draw without reference, if your goal is to draw from imagination, then you're going to figure it out eventually. You're going to be fine. Prioritize keeping it interesting. If you're having fun, everything's going to be all right. Stephen, do you have any recommendations on how to draw clothes and folds? One of the best drawing books ever covers that in depth. Barbara Bradley's How to Draw the Clothes Figure. No one else has even really come close. Bridgeman and stuff like that, they have sections in their books where they claim they're teaching you how to draw clothes, but they're just teaching you the 7 types of folds, which is honestly, that's not enough. That's a day one, the 7 types of folds. Barbara Bradley actually teaches you what you need to think about when you draw clothes. And that book is the rare book that's also about draftsmanship. It's called How to Draw the Clothes Figure, but it's really just a base. It's secretly just one of the best foundational drawing books ever. Anyone here seen Jeff Simpson's work? Of course, yes. Check out his stuff. It's dope. It absolutely is. Animal Anatomy for Artists, Elliot Goldfinger. I just pulled this out before I forgot to remind me to look at it later. The ox has to be pretty similar to a water buffalo, right? Bovid proportions. Ox, bison. African buffalo. I think that's what we got there. Some form of African buffalo. Bovid proportions. You know, I'm something of a bovid proportion myself. An okapi. There's a rare and fun animal that could definitely be of interest. Let me add that to the board before I forget. Oh, copies have wild little faces. What cute little faces. No, God, I hate web peas. Damnable format. It's like a small giraffe. What an odd thing. Is a giraffe a horse? I'm just realizing a giraffe might be a horse. Is a giraffe a kind of horse? Or is a giraffe its own thing? Oh my God. Giraffids. I guess it's its own thing. The genus Giraffa. One species with 9 subspecies. All right. Thank God it's not a horse. I was a little worried there. Close one. Whoa. Jeez. Whoa. That was a close one. Giraffe was almost a horse there for a second. Giraffa. Steven, do you ever draw fish as aquatic animals? Yeah, I've done a lot of aquatic inspired stuff. The absolute nightmare that is the bovine pelvis, dude. Goodbye, Charlie. I do think it's probably a better idea to do one animal at a time, just to build up some depth there. Joe says, "Hi, Steven. Sorry for asking with once, but I'd love to know if you showed your younger self your art, would he find it shocking or unexpected that current you has arrived upon the particular style that you did, as if you didn't think what you do today was in the cards, or would get you be like, that makes sense, kind of saw that coming?" I think it would make sense. I think it would make sense to him. I think that my current like when it comes to my drawings, I think that my current drawings resolve a lot of things that I've been interested in for a very long time. So I don't think he would be surprised. I think he might be like, cool, what else are we doing? And I might not have the answers he's hoping for there or something like that. I mean, when I was young, I really thought I was like, I'm going to work in the movies, yeah! And I think he might be surprised for me to be like, yeah, we kind of moved on from that. I think he'd be very surprised by that. But I don't think the drawing style would necessarily surprise him. I think he'd be thrilled, honestly. I think he'd be thrilled. But then that Stephen, in that universe, because he saw what I achieved and I was fiercely independent since my youth, I wouldn't be comfortable just deterministically reiterating the same path that future Stephen did. So he would depart and do something else. I can guarantee you that. Yeah, no problem, Mr. Sun. That's a great book. It was one I came across early on in my studies, and I always really liked it. And as I explored many other art books after that, I was always like, why does this book suck compared to, you know, Barbara Bradley's Drawing the Clothed Figure really set a standard in my head. I didn't realize that she was the department chair of illustration at the college that I went to until after I had left the college, actually. She wasn't the chair when I was there, to be clear. At least I don't think so. Pretty sure not. But it's just funny that I loved that book when I was a kid. Never bothered to notice that she was chair of illustration at Art Center, and then for other reasons I wound up going to Art Center. Goodbye, Sam. Wouldn't that still be deterministic since seeing you conditioned his decision? Yes. Well, everything there. I don't believe there's any option but for you to be influenced and led deterministically down paths of reactions. So absolutely, it's just non-deterministic within a particular lens. But I've already played my ontological cards there because, you know, see my recent video, Art Without Free Will. I mean, I'm just all the way down on that one. Looks like the looks like when they snurfle the ground, their nostrils get pushed up and out so that they can still breathe easily, even while their nose is pressed into the ground. JB says, Stephen, what exactly do you mean when you say you are not a ghost haunting yourself? Our common sense, intuitive stance to our moment-to-moment experience is that we are some kind of robust, separate, spiritual, I want to say, like a blue glowing separate self that is controlling a body and interacting with the things that we see, and that's over there and we're over here and all of that. And that's what I mean, or I'm negating that with that statement. Like, you are not that. You are not a ghost, a blue glowing gelatinous separate self that is haunting, basically feeding thoughts and emotions to a meat sack or something like that. The common rejoinder here is to say that, well, you are your body. And it's like, indeed, but it gets even more complicated than that. It's like, in some sense, everything that you are experiencing right now is your body. And we all know that scientifically. We just don't live from that place moment to moment, right? Like, if you just look at whatever is around you right now, right? Like, from where I'm sitting, I can see a camera, I can see out the window, I can see my neighbor's house across the street, I can see the sky. It is almost impossible to rewrite the ground floor intuitions there moment to moment about those things being real, separate things that are over there and that we are experiencing. Because that's just naturally the useful stance that we had developed. But of course, we all know, actually, that my neighbor's house is just me. It's a perception generated by my mind, and it is not separate from I. I tried to sum this up in as pithy a way as I could in the video that I made called "You Are Not Inside Your Visual Field," right? We have a common sense feeling that here's my visual field and I inhabit it. And this is where I live. This is where I am, right? And if we try to introspect, we often sort of get stuck at like, well, here's my body, right? And I'm geolocated at the center of my visual field, right? But everything, and again, I want to be clear, not just the camera in my neighbor's house that I see, but my body within the visual field as well is just a photograph. And cameras are not inside of their photographs. Everything that you are seeing, the entire visual field, is a photograph, a beautifully artificed, flawless, incredibly sophisticated generation of your mind. It is artificed by your mind. That is the scientific fact of the matter. It's the experiential fact of the matter. Experiential, it just kind of is. There's very little that can be said about anything on the rawest experiential terms. But it is not the camera, right? The camera here being the hypothetical you that is actually generating this impression. You are not a ghost. There is no other you floating out there elsewhere, right? You can sort of, inspecting this, you can sort of get the feeling that like, all right, this is all generated by my mind, my body, my mind, me, the real me is sort of floating in this matrix-like purple space that I will never be able to investigate. And it's like, that may be ontologically true, but we will never experience that, right? So ontologically, sort of a robust physical realm, which from this viewpoint sort of becomes so absurd that it flips and the physical realm would become the spiritual realm, is hypothetically ontologically possible, but it's beyond investigation. I mean, you will never experience it directly. So there is nowhere for a haunting you to hide. There's just all of this, and it's all you. How about other people? Are they also part of me? Scientifically, as you experience other people, that is the only option. I mean, when you're looking at your mom or your wife or your child, you are generating them within your experience, right? I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm not saying that there's not a conscious experience elsewhere in the cosmos that is them, right? I exist. I don't feel like your consciousness and my consciousness are identical right now. I don't have your memories. I don't have your feelings. I don't have your emotions, right? But if from within your frame of reference, it's you making me. That is just a scientific fact, right? It's not the useful level at which most things are discussed, right? But on the raw level of how we know perception and experience work, it's just the simple, mundane fact of the matter. You know, it's not. Some people don't find it useful, and indeed, on a scientific level of analysis, it's not necessarily useful, right? But you know, it can sort of realizing these things can really take the edge off of a lot of stuff in your life, you know. So I think it's useful, but on the level of that usefulness, if you can click into it, it is fascinating. It's utterly fascinating to dwell on and to introspect on. But again, scientifically speaking, it is actually just the mundane fact of the matter. You know, it is the ground floor, just on a scientific level, it's just the most boring scientific truth, right? That is the way that it is. Do you discuss these topics with your therapist? And if you do, what are their takes? No, I don't. But, well, maybe we have talked about it once or twice, but I don't find these topics like, you know, what I'm interested in talking about in therapy is like autobiography and like energetics of personal psychology and things like that. These things are just, like I said, like they're almost mundane to the point of being below mention. Like the fact that everything you are experiencing is you, and that you are generating every beautiful thing you've ever seen and every wonderful interaction, and that you manifest all the evil and all the good in the world. Not manifest like woo-woo, like the secret shit, but like, you know, the way your dog looks is you making that, right? That's just, you know, what is there to say? On some level, it's deeply uninteresting. It's just, yep, that's how that works. Yep. It's not, yeah, I mean, again, if you're tuning the view just right, if you're getting what I'm putting down, like there's very little to discuss. It is just the undebatable fact of the matter, you know? You have never experienced, felt, seen, heard, or touched anything that was not a modulation of your conscious experience. That goes for the sky, that goes for every sound, every emotion, every thought image, everything is just, it could not be perceived in your consciousness if your mind was not artificing it. And interestingly, that goes for even much more subtle phenomena like the experience of time, you know, experiences of scale, of position, of proprioception, the sense of self, that there is a ghost-like sense of, that there is a ghost-like self that haunts experience. All of those things are just the mind artifices them, and they are all capacities of mind. And if you're interested in going down meditative or contemplative paths, and you have a level of interest where you want to play with these things, you can actually de-artifice them by preparing the conditions for that, which you can also have that hardwired by certain medical conditions or being on a drug trip or something like that. But meditation as well, it is the same way that it is a capacity of the mind to artifice those things. It's also a capacity of the mind to de-artifice them. And some people find those things more interesting than others. Some people experience that, and it's just sort of, the voice of the devil says, so what, right? And they never think about it again. And other people, you see through it once and you're like, oh, well, I guess my life's different forever from now on. That was quite a tear I got him, but yes, that's what I mean by you are not a ghost haunting yourself. Where can I read about this kind of meditation? This is at the core what all of the old schools are trying to do. So, mindfulness is the buzzword these days, but mindfulness is just an aspect of what Buddha laid out. He was one of the first to sort of codify meditation, and he certainly did it at a weird level of detail that certainly no one before him had laid it out at that level of detail. But there's a lot of other aspects, So anyway, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but insight meditation is it's sort of the modern usage of the word mindfulness is sort of pulled from the Vipassana, which means insight meditation, the Vipassana school's interpretation and importance that it puts on mindfulness. So if you look at the Vipassana school, that will investigate that, how to de-artifice certain things of mind. Zen does it. The more body-focused rather than insight focused meditation methods, they're also doing the same thing. It's just, it's such a foundational thing underneath that there is no avoiding it if you are going to investigate your mind. Any amount of investigating the mind is going to reveal this because it's too foundational, too big of a thing to avoid. It'd be like saying, meditation is like this great house, and I'm going to give you a tour of the house. It's but somehow I'm going to give you a tour where you miss the kitchen. It's you're never going to miss the kitchen, the ground floor insight that there's no you haunting yourself and that you are experientially generating everything and that these are capacities of mind and artificing them and de-artificing them. That'd be like missing the kitchen. It's you're not going to go on any tour of the house where you miss the kitchen. There might be a tour of the house that focuses more on the basement. There might be a tour of the house that focuses more on the bedrooms. There might be a tour of the house that focuses more on the recreation areas. That might be jhana-focused meditation or things like that. But no tour of the house is going to skip the kitchen. They're all going to pay attention to the kitchen. So, I would recommend, exploring some of the traditional options and just seeing which sort of resonates with you. Some people are very cerebral. Some people are more embodied, more body-focused. Some people are absurdists. I think that's kind of what I've been since, a mix of absurdist and cerebral. So Zen made sense for me, especially the gateways that I came to Zen through. But it all depends on your temperament. It's in all of them, depending on where you're finding it, like apps, books, things like that. They'll sort of couch it or hide it a little bit because they don't want to scare people at first. But all of them, any teacher worth their salt, they all get that out of the way, halfway through the book. They're not going to go more than halfway through the book without reminding you oh yeah, there's some pretty crazy stuff going on. Well, PP No says, I agree. The body in our brain is us. My neighbor had a car accident where she hit her head and now her character is totally altered. She's another person. That's wild. Yeah, there's so many, I don't know, for me, it's like, the more you look in depth on anything like that, you know, way the mind works, brain works, anatomy, right? Like, if any of you are interested in this and you are specifically resonating with something like what I said about a camera is not inside of its photographs and things like that, like reading with some degree of depth or intensity or watching a video about just the way your eye works, it is basically a meditative transcendental text that is trying to remind you that the world does not operate the way that you intuitively think it does. Reading the chain of photo transduction that produces the perception of vision in you, I struggle to imagine how a person could read that and at the end say, yeah, I'm a separate person over here and I'm really seeing things in the world. If you actually pay attention to that, by the end of it, you're like, right. I am artificing absolutely everything that I see. And if you, for me, the biggest, craziest, hardest pill to swallow is that, and this, you know, this is my edge, you know, I think about this all the time. It's currently something that I think about a lot in contemplation, but it's like the qualia are arbitrary. I said it in The Mystery of Color. It's sort of the punchline of my deep end video, The Mystery of Color. But, you know, my God, I mean, the qualia are arbitrary. And that's still my learning edge, so I don't, you know, I'm not going to sit here and try to convince anybody or anything like that. I have a lot more thinking on that to do. But oh man, after a while, it starts to become undeniable. Make of that what you will. Oh, geez, look at the time. I was supposed to get off of here too, but you guys got me ranting about meditation and contemplation, the qualia being arbitrary, so I blew over. I'm going to start wrapping up here. Oh, God, I just saw on the timer that this has been going for almost 3 hours here. I got to get. You know, sometimes you just get lost in some sheep horn textures. Fun drawing. Fun drawing. Chuck asked, are you French? No. I'm way behind on chat. I see you guys were talking about a lot of stuff, but I was running my mouth too much. I got no hope of catching up on that. Gorobart says, any tips on getting the horns to look well-structured but still organic? I'll report back once I have a little more experience. But like anything, it comes down to form. Just what faces up, what faces down. I mean, this shot gives me like a real clear turning corner edge. So I just tried to emphasize that. It's hard from a photograph to really grok how these are rotating in three-dimensional space, you know? It's like when you see it from the side, they go way farther back than it looks like they go here. Here it looks like they go out more to the side. You wouldn't, from this view, you wouldn't expect that they go so far behind the head. But that's just the pitfalls of working from photographs instead of real animals. Thank you, Mustafa. Goodbye to Wes, goodbye to Mustafa, goodbye to Knife, goodbye to Gorbar, goodbye to Noah Birkeland, who says, it's good to hear your thoughts, Stephen. Hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. Gabuda says, less yap, more slap. Goodbye, Chuck. Goodbye, Adam. Goodbye, Autumn Rose. Goodbye, Wes. I think I already said goodbye, Wes. Colin Gallagher, there we go. Renola Dominguez. Goodbye, goodbye. And of course, Miss Dude Man, who says, this reminds me of my favorite song lyric of all time that goes something like, why should I care about my body when it isn't me but mine? See, who's appropriating the body, you know? Who is appropriating the body there? Mustafa said further up, I noticed that anytime someone talks about this, it's like they're trying to make you notice something you already know. Yes. I feel almost all the time whenever I talk about this with people, even though it seems we're saying the most far out there things, they already know it all. They already know it all. You know, they're already, I don't know, I feel like maybe it's just like a selecting set of the people I wind up talking to, but almost, especially artists, right? I'm speaking within the artist realm. It's like all the artists I talk to, it's like they've already thought about all this. They already get it. They already believe and get the most far out, freeing things. And they just, you know, like we all do, they just forget. And sometimes they just need to talk about it a bit to remember like, oh yeah, right. Existence is a mystery. Every option that's on the table for what the hell is going on here is miraculous. There actually is no nihilistic option. Viewed through any lens, this is impossible. And only the most counterintuitive and magical things are happening moment to moment. Right, right. They all know. You all know. I know you all know it. It's really not that interesting. It's a fascinating thing to contemplate, but I know you all already, deep down, you all already know there's some crazy stuff going on and that you're free. You're free. You've all already thought about it. You've all probably thought about it more than me. You just need to remember. You just need to remember. All right, everybody. Peace. Happy drawing. And I'll see you here next time for the next study session. Bye-bye, everyone. Oh, and if you're on the Patreon Discord, 5 o'clock Q&A call. Let me save this. Already saved. All right, bye, everybody.